Hey everyone, welcome back to the latest GoSkills Excel Challenge solution. How close did you get to solving it? Well, we've got Microsoft trainer Deborah Ashby ready to share her solution. Check it out right now.
Hey everyone, let's take a look at the solution to this month's Excel challenge. Now the first thing we need to do here is we need to add in the checkboxes in column C. Now to do this, you're going to need to make sure that you have the developer ribbon turned on. So you can see mine up here. If you don't have it turned on, you'll need to go into File, down to Options, and then in Customize Ribbon on the right hand side, we want to make sure that we have a tick next to Developer, because the Developer tab is where we can go to add in a form control. So if we click the drop down, this is the one we're looking for. It is a checkbox. Now, just a side note before we start to add this into our progress tracker, if you've never used checkboxes before, I'm just going to draw one just here. The way that they work is that we add the checkbox in, and then we can choose to format the control and link it to another cell. So if I was to link this checkbox to the cell next to it, what that means is that when I check the checkbox, I get a result of true. When I uncheck it, I get a result of false. And this is really helpful when it comes to constructing formulas. So let's recreate this in the progress tracker. So we're going to go to Insert, we're going to grab our form control, let's draw a little checkbox. I'm going to try and position that as close to the middle as I can. And we don't need the label in this example, so we can simply delete out where it says checkbox. And then we can use our autofill handle to copy the checkbox down. Now, currently, these checkboxes aren't linked to a cell, which is why we're not getting the true or false result. So I want to make sure that I go through and format each control so that it links to a cell. Now, in general, if I'm doing something like this, I like to link to the cell underneath the checkbox. You don't have to do that. You could have chosen a completely different cell, maybe cells in column E. This is just the way that I prefer to do it. So I'm going to go through each of these checkboxes, formatting the control and adding in the cell link. So I'm going to do the rest of these off camera just to save a bit of time. Join me back here in a couple of seconds when I've done that. So I now have all of these checkboxes linked to the cell underneath. And you can see that because when I check a checkbox, can you see it changes to true? If I deselect, it changes back to false. So we're going to use this true and false information to create our table and then our progress bar chart. Now, another little tip, I don't want these true or falses showing underneath. So there are a couple of different ways that you can disguise these. You could select all of the cells and just simply change the font to white. Or the method that I prefer is to press Ctrl 1 to open up the Format Cells dialog box, go to Custom, and if we type in 3 semicolons, that will effectively hide that text underneath. So now that we have the checkboxes, we're going to add some formulas into this little table, because what we're aiming for here is we want to be able to create a progress bar that shows the percentage of complete. So we need some calculations first in order to do that. So my table here, I want to perform a calculation that tells me how many checkboxes have a status of true, so effectively they have a tick, and how many checkboxes have a status of false, they're unchecked. So for this, we can do a simple count if. So we're going to say count if this range, and our criteria is if it's true. Close the bracket, hit enter. Currently, it says none. We're going to do exactly the same here, so we're going to do a count if this range is false. And we should find that we have 7, and these numbers will update depending on what I've selected. The next thing is a very simple total calculation. So we just want to do the number of trues plus the number of falses. And then the final thing to work out here is the progress percentage. Now again, this is a simple calculation. We want to find out the percentage of progress, so effectively the percentage of assignments that are done. So all we need to do here is the number of true results divided by the total. And that's going to give us our progress. Now, if you have this as a number, it might just be the formatting that you have applied. So if yours looks something like that, just make sure that you have percentage formatting applied to get the correct result. And you'll find that now that updates, and let's just make sure we go all the way through to 100%. So now we have this information, we can build a little bar chart based off of this information. And the only information we need to display in the bar chart is the progress. So let's select it. Let's go up to Insert, and we're going to choose a 2D bar chart. And the rest of this exercise is really just formatting this chart. So let's remove the chart title. I'm going to remove the vertical axes. We don't need any of that. And notice here, we're going from 0% to 120. Now, the maximum value that we can have is 100%. So I'm going to want to change this so it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm going to format the axes, Control 1. And where we have bounds, minimum and maximum, my minimum is 0 and my maximum is 1, which is essentially 100%. So when I click now, you should see that updates and we get the full bar taking up the full width of the chart when the value is 100%. I'm going to delete out the horizontal axes. We'll also delete out these grid lines as well. And then we can just simply start to resize. So I'm going to make this quite a bit smaller. We're going to move it underneath. And again, I'm not going to spend as much time doing this as you can, but we want something that looks like that. Let's remove the shape fill. So we're going to say no fill. And I'm going to change the fill of the bar to this purple color, but I'm also going to make it a gradient fill. So let's do something like that. And my shape outline will do a nice dark purple. Now let's remove the grid lines so we can see this a little bit better. I need to remove the outside border from around this chart. So back to format, let's say no outline. So that's looking pretty good so far. I'm kind of going to make it the same width as the table above. The final thing to do is simply add a data label. So we're going to right click, we're going to say add data labels. Now I don't particularly like the way this is formatted, so let's select the data label, Control 1, and I'm going to change the label position to inside end. And then it's a simple case of applying more formatting. So I'm going to fill the background color. Let's make the font white and bold, and maybe make it a little bit bigger. And if you want to get rounded corners on your data label, we can simply right click, change label shape, and we can change it to a rounded rectangle. So let's test it out and see if it works. Looking pretty good so far. The final thing to do here is simply hide the table, but there is a little bit of a problem with this. If we right click and hide those columns, you can see the progress tracker disappears. So a way that we can get around this is to select the progress chart, right click and go to select data. Because we have a little option here, hidden and empty cells. And if you manage to find this, then well done. Because if we check this checkbox for show data in hidden rows and columns, it means we can safely hide these columns just here, and it's not going to affect that progress chart. So that is it, quite a lot to that challenge and lots of different techniques. Tell us what you think about our solution to this challenge by commenting below or join in the conversation on our Slack channel. That's it for now, and I will see you next time.
So there it is. Did you get the same results? Did you use the same approach? Or did you try something different? We'd like to know. Share your take on the challenge in the comments below or join us for more discussion in our Slack channel. Link in the description. Thanks for participating, and make sure to subscribe to this channel to get an alert when the next challenge is released. We'll see you then.